Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Paul Half Dollar Eberhart, and wanted to have a little bit of hangout today, a little bit of hangout talking about the silver markets. There are a lot of interesting things going on in the silver market right now, including the massive plunge that we're seeing. So, I just wanted to have a live stream today to talk about, some things that are changing kind of a little bit with the podcasts with silver doctors. I want to focus less on interviews and just asking a question and letting people just talk and then not challenge them on the questions. I want to actually have challenging questions put out in the silver community, and I want silver advocates to face challenging questions. That's kind of what we're going to do today as we're sitting with silver under $21.50 here on this Wednesday afternoon. It's Wednesday, September 29th. It's 12 in the afternoon. And I just want to thank everybody for joining and everybody for tuning in. If anybody is tuning in, because this live stream is unlisted and it is a test on top of that, let me know if my sound is okay. Let me know if my audio is okay. And let me know something in the chat. Just threw something up there in the chat myself. And this is an Ask Me Anything About Silver, the Markets, or the Economy episode. So I do have some topics that I want to hit on as we're getting into questions in the chat. Hopefully, somebody will chime in the chat. I can see right now we've got about 8 people watching, which is to be expected because this is not something that's highly advertised. Thank you, Gary. Appreciate you tuning in. That the audio sounds good. So I just want to start off by just talking about, isn't the fundamental case for silver strong? Why is silver sitting under $21.50 right now? And, the answer is that yes, the fundamental case for silver is indeed strong. What is the fundamental case for silver? Well, inflation is picking up. That is definitely one of the factors right now, as silver's inflationary hedge roll. There's a deficit in the physical supply of silver, right? We see this from various manufacturers of all types. We see this from the United States Mint back when they were releasing those Facebook posts. We see this all over the place, that there's a structural physical deficit, and the global supply chain disruptions are the convenient scapegoat to talk about it. Mining outputs are dropping out for over a year. That's a good point too. And then also just possible coming crackdowns on the mines as well. Are mines going to get approved? Are they going to be forced to shut down? Are they going to be, forced into some kind of labor or environmental dispute, making things, not as profitable for the miners? There's a number of issues there, and the miners are a whole separate ballgame, and we can get into that too. And actually, now that we're on it, one of the things I just want to say about the miners, first of all, is, it is unfortunate that when people talk about gold and silver, well, first of all, it's unfortunate that when people talk about gold, they leave out silver, right? Because the last time I checked, according to the United States Constitution, it is not gold or silver, it's gold and silver. But that beside the point, when people talk about gold, what they generally do is they lump in gold, silver, and the miners as if they were one and the same. And I do not think that they're one and the same. I think that the mining industry, the explorers, the juniors, whatever you want to call them, this is highly speculative. This is highly pump and dump, penny stock pump in, all this and all that. And it really can't be, it's not the same asset as gold or silver. The miners are not the same asset. People like to say, well, it's a leveraged play, and that leverage can work horribly to the downside. Before we talk about anything else, before we talk about any, and any further, let me just say, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not a professional advisor. I'm not a licensed advisor. I'm not any of that stuff. So just take all this stuff with a grain of salt. Don't do anything based off of what I say. And this is all my opinion only. It's probably not even Silver Doctor's opinion. This is just Half Dollar talking, trying to answer some questions. So, yes, less of a commodity should make silver's price rise. Indeed, right? Because, we are looking at silver, and it can actually be argued the 4 precious metals: silver, platinum, gold, and palladium. But when we're talking about silver, one of the things we're talking about is it has 2 unique dynamics to it. It has the commodity, the industrial aspect to it, and it has the monetary aspect to it. So, definitely, I don't like to talk about silver as a commodity. I like to talk about silver as money, but it is a money in and of itself is in fact a commodity. But yes, less of a commodity should make prices rise in the sense of people looking for that monetary escape. I think that's a good point there, Gary. So a couple other of the fundamentals, every other asset is in a bubble, every other asset, and people like to call it the everything bubble, but it's like, hello, what happened with the silver in the everything bubble? I mean, silver's not even halfway to its all-time record highs, which was set, 41 years ago. So that's just another thing about the fundamentals picture for silver, right? The Green New Deal, the infrastructure plans, all of these, they're going to electrify everything and make everything solar electricity, and we're going to build out everything, and everyone's going to be driving electric cars. All of this is going to be bullish for silver demand going forward. So the fundamental case for silver is indeed absolutely strong, and the fundamental case is only getting stronger going forward. But the question is, well, why are we sitting here at exactly 2150 today on Wednesday? Several reasons for that. People like to talk about, the COT report. People like to talk about, the bullion banks doing this. People like to talk about the open interest, the short interest. Quite simply, I've been talking about it for a while, but in my opinion, I think what's going on is we're kind of looking at the capitulation, right? The latest giving up, so to say, in the silver market, and that's kind of what's needed before we can move forward. The question is the capitulation and the final giving up, the final washing of the specs, the final flushing, whatever you want to call it, is this happening right now, or do we still have more room to move to the downside, or is there something where this is it, just another couple days of pain here, and the capitulation will have been made? One of the problems with going back to like these official reports, like the COT reports and all this and all that, like for example, the latest COT report was like last when, like it was reported on last Tuesday, right? And I'm not talking about yesterday, I'm talking about a week before. So that would be the 21st of September was the latest COT reporting. And it's the 29th of September now, and we're not going to get the next COT report until Friday, right? So there's also these lags and these shenanigans that can be played with the timing. So there's a number of things that are going on, which is why, I really wasn't going to focus a whole lot on the COT report in and of itself. I wasn't going to focus on the open interest or those kind of numbers, because I know how those numbers can be gamed and I know how those numbers can be played. But just from, just the basic fundamental point, what is going on with silver? We're seeing this final capitulation now that we've been looking for, that I've been looking for, and it's interesting because I'm about the only person who's had this call out there for silver in the teens since the end of January. And the question is, are we going to hit silver in the teens? Everybody was so sure we would be at record highs by now. Everybody was so sure we'd be through $30 by now. Everybody was so sure that would be to the moon by now. And here we are sitting closer to silver in the teens than we are to anything else. So how farther does this have to go? How much further does it have to go to the downside? I think it has a little bit further to go to the downside. And here's why. Right. We've seen these smashes on Sundays over the past, call it couple months here, where there's just these blatant carpet bombings and smashes. People like to call them low volume Sunday evening smashes. Well, here's the thing about that, right? We have like basically forever and a day until the next most important jobs report ever comes out, which is coming out on the 8th of September. So we still have a whole week and a half to wait for the most important jobs report ever, because remember, in his most recent Fed chair conference last week, Fed Chair Jerome Powell said that, well, he's really looking forward to see this latest jobs report as an indication to whether the Fed can taper or not, blah, 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 right? But that's not until the 8th, a whole week from this Friday coming up. And what's happening in between then? Well, we got Golden Week in China going on, right? So we're going to have tons of market holidays going on in China, right? So when the Chinese are away, the cartel will play. Isn't that how the old saying goes? I think it goes like that. So, yes, something is definitely up if gold and silver are being smashed. And remember, gold is traditionally your most, surefire inflation hedge, your most surefire inflation indicator. So, all of this talk has been about transitory inflation and the fact that the inflation is transitory. So with gold going down, with silver going down, conveniently fits in that narrative. Now, everything else is going up in price, right? So it's amazing that every single thing in the world is going up in price except for silver, but it helps fit that narrative. So something is up. Yeah, something is up, and what is up is the price of silver being down as one of those ways to help try and maintain this narrative. Right now, it's being held together with nothing more than duct tape and bubble gum at this point. But that is what the narrative is, and that is what we have to deal with. You know, as far as like something is up, people can say, well, maybe they're going, yeah, groceries are up too. Good point. People are saying that, and if somebody else wants to chime in as well, I'd like to welcome anybody who's joining us today and give a shout out to the people here in the chat. But, anything that is, and I lost my train of thought there as we were talking about, everything is going up except for the price of silver. So it helps maintain that narrative, which is being held together by, duct tape and bubble gum at this point right now. Um, so my short-term outlook for silver, we've got a few things that are working against us, right? We've got, which is also the same thing for the short term. Oh, because that was the point that I was going to make. But the short-term outlook, in my view, is still bearish because not only do we have Golden Week coming up in China, where when it's low volume, when the Chinese are away, the cartel will play. Not only do we have the most important jobs report ever coming up, and we know that just by default, as soon as that report hits the tape at 8:30 in the morning, they hit the sell button and then they deal with whatever they can afterwards to try and manage price. Then another thing that we've got going on is, what starts on Friday? The fourth quarter. So, pretty soon we're going to start hearing all the apologists and the sympathizers and the enablers and the status quo pushers. They're going to be saying, well, we've got some tax loss selling. So that's explaining why gold and silver are going down now. So, I am a silver bull. I'm a silver bug. First and foremost, I'm a silver bull. I'm a stacker. I'd like to consider myself a sound money advocate. And I don't have a good feeling about the next couple weeks. And, things always take longer than one thinks. Right. But that's just how it goes. Right. I've been right on the direction. I've been wrong on the timing. But, unless you're inside pulling those levers or, you're touching the shoulders of the person who's pulling those levers, then you don't really know. And nobody really knows. Right. Because they're not telling me, if today's the final washout or tomorrow's the final washout. There's a group of people who know that. Right. And they're pushing those levers and they're pulling those levers. But everybody else, because that's a secret that people take to their grave. Right. That's not something that, people are going to be privy to the information. And I like that point, holding mostly silver. And it goes back to that fact where if you don't hold it, you don't own it. And then it also goes back to the fact that, if you're messing around with the ETFs and the options, people are like, well, why isn't silver moving? I got excited about silver back in late January and early February, and silver, I was buying my silver at $26 and $28. And I feel so bad for those people right now because I knew at that time that they were going to hit silver and they were going to hit silver hard. And that's exactly what they've done. So now you've got, possibly hundreds of thousands of new silver investors who are down like $6 on their investment because they were buying at 28 when everybody was telling them that it was going to go through the moon. So that's an issue too, right? Sentiment gets bad, and then what happens is people hear, well, buying physical silver isn't really the way to do it, even though it is, right? Even though it is the way to do it, or buying physical gold, or even platinum or palladium at this point. But it's like, no, well, that's not the way to do it. The way you got to do it is you got to trade the shares. You got to trade the options, and but the thing about options, right? If you're buying options and you're hoping that someone else is going to buy it from you, that is just gambling in a rigged casino, as I call it, because it is a rigged casino, right? Just the fact that the Fed does asset purchases, right? That's a euphemism for market manipulation, right? And it is a rigged casino, and that means that the cartel, which is not some shadowy group, right, which is the Exchange Stabilization Fund, which is the White House and the Department of Treasury, it's also the Fed and its agents acting on behalf of one of both. That's what I mean when we talk about the cartel. But the cartel has unlimited money, and since they have unlimited money, they have time on their side. So this whole manipulation thing just goes on and on and on and on, which is another reason why I don't put quite as much faith. I don't put any faith at all, but why I don't put as much attention and detail on something like the COT report or the open interest or this or that, because A, the numbers can be finessed, B, there's such a lag and there's such shenanigans that are going on with the numbers and the reporting anyway, and then from the fact that there's just so much going on that really those numbers, in my opinion, can't be trusted. So to me, it's more of a fundamental thing. When are the silver when is the silver community going to turn bearish? And I'm not talking about the mainstream community. I'm talking about those at the fringe, those at the margin. That's what I look out when I'm talking about sentiment. People can be looking at silver right now, and I'm sure there's a million mainstream articles right now saying, oh, sentiment in silver is in the gutter. Is it? Is it? I'm not really seeing much negative sentiment today. And I've had Twitter open all day and I'm not seeing that kind of negative sentiment. So I'm not so sure that the silver sentiment is in the gutter right now. So, but Gary is making a great point in the chat. I started at 5, and that's the whole point, right? Everybody has to start somewhere, right? I started at, what did I start at? I started a tiny bit. I think I want to say at like $40, but my dollar cost average is somewhere, and I haven't done the math in quite a while, but it's somewhere around $15 to $18. So that's the point, right? If you just start somewhere, sooner or later over time, and it's going to be painful. And I can totally feel the pain for all the silver stackers, the new ones out there who their costs, their dollar cost average costs are like $26, $28, because first and foremost, silver is money, right? Silver is money. And what do people do with money? Well, they save money and they spend money. So when it comes to silver, if you need to spend your money right now, well, that's a huge hit to take. If for some reason you've got a bunch of money in silver, but now you need to tap into that money and then you're selling it at a loss, that's a huge hit. But over time, over the long run, Gary started out at 5. So I'm thinking that he started out sometime in the low early 2000s. I'm just guessing right there. And of course, we should have bought more, right? I should have bought more a couple years ago. I didn't buy more a couple years ago when I should have. I mean, obviously, I'm buying whatever I can. Just I don't have unlimited money. The cartel has unlimited money, but I don't have unlimited money. But that's right. People talk about, you just got to start somewhere, and then over time, it's just kind of set it and forget it, and you're going to be okay. So, listening to my people, welcome. I appreciate you tuning in and sharing your thoughts as well, because this is an unlisted video. This is what it's about. I'm changing things up a little bit. I'm not really going to be quiet anymore. I'm not going to really give all of these people a free pass anymore. There are some things that need to be said in the silver market. There are some things that need to be pointed out, and I'm going to start saying these things, and I'm going to start pointing out these things. So let me see what you're saying here. Question: what stops people from buying silver's futures contract and taking delivery of 22-ounce silver and thus forcing the hand? I wrote about this a little bit the other day, and nothing stops it. The problem is nothing stops people from taking delivery of silver $2 and thus silver at $22 and thus forcing your hand, other than terms and conditions, right? Terms and conditions stop it, right? So if they can't deliver that silver, well, you just got cash settled. Or the other thing is, there's always enough silver, right? There's always magically enough silver just in the physical market in general. Because what was I saying earlier? I was saying silver is money, right? And people always are buying. And if we think about money, people are always saving money and they're always spending money. So when it comes to silver, right, a lot of people don't think about silver as money, even though silver is money. But that means that there are always buyers of silver and there are always sellers of silver. So it's always like there's just this kind of scramble at the last minute. And where does the scramble ultimately end up? Well, it ultimately ends up in things like the LBMA or the COMEX or something like that, where there's always just barely enough silver. And, furthermore, to take your question further, what stops a person from buying futures contract to 22 and taking delivery? Well, if that price gets smashed down until 18, then that person's probably not going to be taking delivery at 22. They're going to be stuck on it. They're going to be forced out with a stop loss because they're probably trading on margin, a whole number of things like that. So, this whole idea that we can take a silver's contract, take delivery of it, and force the hand of the manipulators, I don't buy into that, because it's also this holistic approach, this whole of market approaches, this, and we hear this all the time when it comes to politicians, right? It's a whole of market approach. Well, it's kind of like that with the silver market, because it's not just the futures market, it's the physical silver market, and it's the ETFs, and then there's the shenanigans that are going on between the ETFs and the futures, and then there's the other types of tradable products in the financial market that all kind of like work to keep this game going. So, theoretically, yes, it's possible to force the hand, but in reality, I don't think it's possible to force the hand like that. That's why I say starve the beast, right? I say that that's the only way that a person can force the hand in the silver market is to starve the beast. And that means a whole bunch of things, right? But one of the things that it means, because I would be anti rigged market casino gambling, right? Like I'm not like that forever, but I think that our financial system and our markets and especially, the US financial market system is rigged and rotten to the core. So if that's the case, I don't want to participate in that because other people will say, well, you don't understand. I constantly win in the market. And what I do is I take all my winnings and I take all my profits and I go out and I buy physical silver and I stick it to the man. But I don't think that that's helping either because, for every one person that does that, there's 100 people that are losing in the markets, spoon feeding the beast, as I like to say. And what that's doing is that is just enabling the ongoing manipulation. So, really, in my opinion, the only way to end the manipulation is to starve the beast. And that means not even getting that futures contract and taking delivery anyway. That means sourcing that physical silver by other means, because remember, the futures market has way more lawyers, way more money, way more legalese, way more government bureaucrats on their side, way more politicians on their side. And, this is something that's been going on since 1971. It's not something that all of a sudden, that's the other thing. And it's not to say that the point is not valid, because it's an absolutely valid point. But that's the other thing, it's like, we've been talking about this for years and decades, arguably, about, the futures market and just take delivery and crash the futures market. Well, that's not how it's going to end up going down. So, um, let's see here. So another couple other topics. We're going to move along. We're going to stay on topic unless there's not other questions. Hopefully people chime in with questions. I know there's only 18 people watching right now, and I thank you all for tuning in. This is an unlisted video, so this isn't even publicized. I'm not out here trying to pump something. I'm not out here trying to promote something. I'm not a penny stock pumper. I'm not any of these things. I'm just trying to talk about the silver market. And the problem is that I don't think that there's a lot of good talk in the silver market right now. I don't think there's a lot of good advocacy going on for silver right now. I keep talking about seeing stuff like, hey, this is great. This sucks because silver price is going down, but hey, there's a tradable low coming up. So let's trade this thing. Well, that's not really helping. Or jumping on the uranium bandwagon. That's not really helping. Or, pumping these penny stocks that, were named some company 5 years ago. Then they were named one company 3 years ago. Now they're named a different company this year. And, you read their second quarter reports and they say, well, we can release unlimited shares into the market so they can dilute the float. And then they got all of these warrants that these legendary billionaire investors can exercise at 16 cents or 40 cents or wherever these warrants are, and then they can just dump it onto the people because they think, hey, well, it's not silver, it's the miners that I need to be into. But I'm ranting and I'm rambling again, and I don't really want to do that, but that's just some of the issues that I see in the silver market, which is some of the reasons why, I'm going to come out and I'm going to start talking about the silver market from the way, kind of like a different way, right? Kind of like a contrarian kind of a way, kind of like a way where, things need to be said and people need to be called out when this goes on. So I appreciate you tuning in. I appreciate the thumbs up. I know there's 18 people watching right now, and I would appreciate even more thumbs up. That would be awesome because, this is unlisted and this is actually a test. This is actually a test live stream because I do planning on getting into this more. I do plan on on putting things on blast a little bit more, and I'm not going to hold back any longer. So, hopefully Silver Doctors gives me this platform to do that, and I think they will. So, let's keep on moving. We're at 23 minutes, and let's just say for this one, I'm going to keep this first live stream at 30 minutes. So I really do hope that I get some more questions. And I'm going to stroll down here, and I don't see any more questions coming in. So, Gary or listen, my people, if you want to chime in with another question, go ahead. Anybody else who's watching, I would really appreciate a question because I also want to get challenged too. I want challenging questions. But let's just go back for why has silver not gone to the moon yet? Why has silver not um um why has silver not taken off? Why is silver not through $30? Because that's the other thing, right? People are like, oh, you're crazy thinking that silver's going down into the teens. Well, am I really looking so crazy right now? Silver's a lot closer to the teens than it is to $30. And sure, I don't know if we're going to go into the teens, and I hope we do because I plan on backing up the truck at that price. Um, but we're a lot closer to the teens than we are to 30 right now. Is this really about manipulation? Absolutely, it is really about manipulation, in my opinion. And furthermore, and beyond that, in my opinion, silver is the absolute single thing in the entire world that the manipulators and the market riggers or the cartel or whatever you want to call them are most afraid of in the entire world. And why is that? Well, gold is the money of nations, right? Gold is what central banks have on their balance sheet. Gold is what we see every nation keep adding to their stack month after month, right? But silver is the power of the people. Silver is the money of the people, right? That's why in the Constitution it's gold and silver. It's not gold or silver. And think about this. It is easy for, politicians and governments and larger influential central banks around the world to control other central banks, right? What are there, like 220 countries? I'm not that smart, so I don't know how many countries there are in the world. There's like 200 and something countries in the world. So it's a lot easier to control 200 central banks and 200 presidents or figureheads or whatever you want to call them than it is to control all the people on the world, right? And when we talk about all the people on the world and when we talk about silver, we're talking about there's not even enough silver for every person on earth to have an ounce if they wanted one. So yes, this is about manipulation. And furthermore, it's about the manipulation of the one single thing that the cartel fears the absolute most. So, a lot of people are frustrated right now looking at silver at 2150. I am not frustrated, right? I've gone through those stages of frustration. And, what was I doing over the summer? Well, when platinum was falling, I started saying, I'm looking for platinum to hit 1050. I'm looking for platinum to hit 1050. And when I do, I'm going to back up the truck. And sure enough, I did that twice, right? And I got wifey some nice jewelry, some nice platinum jewelry. But now I'm really starting to hone in on silver. And now I'm really starting to look at that back up the truck price. So even if a person is frustrated right now, this is a temporary thing. This is not, you know, everything is going up in price, and everything is not going up in price just a little bit, right? Look at the fact that I've been following tortilla chips for the last year and a half, and these tortilla chips that I buy at the Walmart, the cheap brand, have gone from 92 cents to $1.76 or 74 or whatever it was just last week over the last 18 months. So, it's counterintuitive that silver is the only thing in the world, and gold and the precious metals for that matter right now, but silver is the only thing in the world that's going down in price. And it's really silver more than anything else, right? Because we're sitting at under half of our all-time record high. But it's really silver more than anything else. And it's not counterintuitive, it's unnatural, and it's manipulatively unnatural. So why doesn't Silver Doctors more 1,000-ounce bars? Well, Silver Doctors, we don't sell bullion at Silver Doctors. We're just gold and silver news website. Maybe you're thinking about SD bullion, but that's a great question for them. I don't know. I don't want to put words in their mouths or anything like that. So, but give them a call. See what they say about that. I'm not in tune to something like that. And that is the very valid point. That's the very valid point, Garrett. And that's one of the best points I think that I've seen in a long time that needs to be repeated from time to time. And that is, I'm 65 and I don't have a lifetime to wait for things to get fixed. And, I'm not saying you started when you were 25, but you could have, and we're still waiting for these things to get fixed 40 years later when silver was hitting its all-time high in 1980. And that's the thing, right? It's like, in my opinion, it's never going to get fixed, right? As long as we have the Fed in there with their asset purchases, right? Manipulating the market, purchasing interest rates, forcing them down lower. As long as we have a dollar that, in my opinion, is set on its inevitable course for hyperinflation. And actually check out my latest podcast interview with Charles Hugh Smith, and I actually mentioned several different ways for how the US dollar has already hyperinflated already, right? And it blows my mind that people are talking about the inflation deflation debate, and I can prove using a number of different examples that the dollar has already hyperinflated. But that's just the thing, right? It's like this whole concept that the manipulation can be ended. Well, if we think about the US financial system as a beast and an evil beast, the only way that you can fight that beast, the only way you can beat that beast is to starve that beast, because of the very, very, very utterly simple fact that the cartel has unlimited money. That's why it's called a printing press, right? And Powell said, well, it's not even a printing press anymore. He said, we print it digitally. But the cartel has unlimited money. They're unaudited, and therefore they have time on their side. That is not a combination that anybody can ever compete against, ever. So the only way to fight it and to beat it is to starve the beast, in my opinion. That means not gambling in the rigged casino. That means buying physical silver and taking it in your house. That means keeping only enough money. It means a lot of things, right? Like I said in the beginning, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just some guy that rambles who's had a lot of different life experiences. But the point is that, there's a way to do it. And the way that everybody hears is the way to end the manipulation. That's not the way to do it. That's what the penny stock pumpers want you to do. So, And I'm going to keep it going for a little bit. I know I said 30 minutes, but we got another question. And I want to thank you, Michael, for tuning in because this is an unlisted video. This is a test video, actually. So hopefully, y'all can also leave some comments down below about how the audio sounded, how the video looked, and all of these things like that. But let me see here, Michael. It seems like there is a lot of Chinese refined silver available in Singapore for under $23. And that's great. And that is a low and I'm assuming you're talking about physical silver that you can go up and buy. That's great low premium over spot, right? Because if spot's $21 right now, and if it's $23 and just apples to apples, not talking about like currency, FX exchange rates and stuff like that, but now we're talking. Now we're talking, right? Which is one of the reasons why I was focused on platinum because I didn't want to pay $40 for a silver eagle back when the silver price was $28 and nobody could get silver eagles. That's why I started focusing on platinum because they were kind of really letting them leaving platinum as the hey, look over here, look what's happening with platinum right now. So, I do kind of discriminate in the sense that gold and silver are in the United States Constitution. I don't see the word platinum. I don't see the word palladium. But arguably now, platinum and palladium have in fact been remonetized, right? They're being sold by mints around the world that are both sovereign mints and private mints. But that's great, right? If there's this Chinese refined silver in Singapore for $23, that's great. I would be, I wouldn't be all over that because I'm looking for myself for sub $20 silver. I'll probably be wrong, but we'll see. So far, I haven't been wrong. And the only thing I've been wrong about since January when it comes to the price is the specific timing of it. But here's the other thing about the price. So in Singapore, that might actually be a very good option. The other thing about the price is we get down to the point where you got to be careful with that premium creep, right? Because if we get too low and if we start breaching $20 to the downside, if you can get silver for 1% or 2% or even 5% over spot, then you're looking at a heck of a deal. But if that premium starts shooting up again because the silver just vanishes from the marketplace, then we're going to be starting to have problems again. And then what the term that I've coined, pun and no pun intended, is premium creep, right? So that's when premium creep comes back up and you're starting to pay, $9.99 over spot for 90% constitutional silver, and you're starting to pay, $10, $15 premiums on eagles and stuff like that. So very interested. Let's see here. Silver Doctors isn't Silver Doctors is not the same company. Remember, Silver Doctors, I don't know if you want to call it controversial or what you want to call it, but we're constantly under attack, right? From big tech, from the politicians, from whoever you want to call it. And the attacks are real. And I can't go into them specifically, but I can name a few things that are public, right? So for example, look at that proper not list way back from 2016, right? Silver Doctor's been on that list. And we've been relentless ever since, right? Another one of the things that I can talk about publicly is the most recent thing just a few months ago is that Spot.im kicked us off their platform, right? Because we're fake news. So, they're allowed on RT, I think. They're allowed on Fox News. It's a chatting platform for a lot of different places. And people loved it because we were open in the sense that, how do you know a person's not telling the truth? Well, they don't allow comments, right? Or they heavily censor them. We let anybody comment without even registering at Silver Doctors. But that's the whole point, right? It's like there's so much attack against Silver Doctors. And, whether it's shadow banning, whether it's the cancel culture, whether it's the deplatforming, whether it's the proper not list or whatever you want to call it. So, there's some issues there. Silver Doctors is on its own, separate, and that's fine and dandy. But then again, SD Boyan is a great company. They're not endorsing this, they're not sponsoring this in that sense. But yeah, I mean, I would say talk to those people, give those people a call about availability of products, premiums, and all that good stuff right there. I see sub 20 coming. Mines will probably shut down. Or there's that other saying they'd make it up on volume, right? They were cranking out silver like there was no tomorrow when it was 15, 16, 18 bucks. So, here in record years and one of these days, one of these podcasts, I want to talk about the miners and all the problems with the miners, but there are a number of risks and a number of problems associated with the gold and the silver mining companies. And it's not just the mining companies, but it's also the explorers, it's the juniors and all of this and that. And I want to talk about the buying to collect as well. I think that's an interesting point right there. Here's a cool silver coin. This one I got as a gift recently. This is from, and I want to see if people can see that. I don't know if people can see that in my winter skin. So let me get off my winter skin right there. But this is a cool, this, and it's backwards, I guess, because of the camera. But this is from the 1986 World Cup from Mexico. And this is cool because back then they used to, stamp their silver. And this is 720. So this is 72% silver. And I have this for collector purposes, right? So I say that it's a good combination of both, and it's a way to diversify. Now, I'm not saying going out and getting that, $5,000 slabbed and graded coin. That's not really the kind of stuff I collect. I'm just talking about stuff with, interesting, broad-based collector's appeal, right? That doesn't go for crazy, ridiculous premiums over spot, because I would advocate the fact that since silver is money, you got to go with, if you're looking for boosting your savings account, you want to boost it with the best, the cheapest, the most affordable. That's my opinion, right? So I think that it's a good way to diversify things. I think sub 20 silver is coming. That's what I've been looking for. I hope we get there. And remember, between the tax loss selling, the Golden Week coming up with, I think the Chinese start their holiday this Friday evening, and forever and a day until the next jobs report, there's going to be a lot of time where if the cartel wants, they can come in and smash. It's almost like, in my opinion, we're getting close to that now or never point. Which brings me to another point about the debt ceiling debate and the infrastructure spend and all of this and all of that, right? Because people are like, well, something's up. Maybe they're smashing it because the whole debt ceiling's about to get revalued. The whole national debt's about to get revalued when they raise the debt ceiling, or the infrastructure bill is going to pass, and all this and all that. Well, that's already priced in, right? I mean, theoretically, we've been talking about infrastructure since 2016. Supposedly there's all this infrastructure in the works now. I have my doubts on how much infrastructure will actually get built, but that's the thing, right? Is like all of this stuff, it's coming, right? Because inflation and hyperinflation in and of that self is the path of least resistance. So that it's coming. So are they smashing really for the debt ceiling to be lifted? Are they smashing really because the national debt's going to get raised from 28, whatever it is, to 32, or however it's going to end up being, right? I mean, these are all the givens. These are all the knowns. So, and then that's the other thing, right? Like, it's kind of the flip side of, when is the stock market going to crash, right? And there's a lot of volatility right now, and people think the stock market's actually crashing right now, as in over the last week and ongoing, and that the stock market is topped. But, just kind of like the stock market and how I'm formulating my opinion there, with silver is going to be one of the last things that they let go, period. And it's going to be one of those end game scenarios. They're going to hold on to the price of silver as in keeping it down and keeping it suppressed for as long as possible, until we reach that next monetary system, right? People are talking about $50,000 gold, $100,000 gold. Well, when the dollar's hyperinflating, I wouldn't sell any gold for $50,000. I wouldn't sell any gold for $100,000 unless, real assets like cars and houses have just totally deflated against that when it comes to price. But if the dollar is hyperinflating, then really they're not going to let go of silver until we get into that new system reset, like everybody likes to call it. But yes, absolutely. When the dollar, as we know it, goes away, ceases to be, then we're at that reset. Then we're at the point where silver has its liberation. How long is that going to take? Well, it also depends, right? Because you got people gambling in the rigged casino that are enabling the manipulation. If that would end, then we would get to it sooner. But as long as the cartel has unlimited money and unlimited time on its side, then it's just not going to end, right? All we're going to see are, runs and then price rises, and we're going to be seeing stability for some time, right? When Gary was talking about $5 for his, at the price that he got in, I wish I got in at $5. I wish I would have known about silver when it was $5. But when you're talking about, you got to get in, well, that's just the whole point. You got to get in somewhere, and over the long run, which might not even be that long anymore, right? Because, I talk about the hyperinflation in 3 stages. I talk about the slow hyperinflation. The slow hyperinflation took place over 100 years, and we can date that back to when the Fed was created in 1913, and we can basically say that, look to that chart, right? And it's even been 71, but that chart, since the Fed has been created and then goes down to like the dollar's lost 97% of its value, that's slow hyperinflation. Then there's the medium term, right? The Fed coined that term, and it's not really a good term, but it's the medium term, or call it the 10-year hyperinflation. And this is where everybody likes to talk about inflation in the financial assets. They say, well, there's no inflation, but there's inflation in the financial markets. That's what they like to say, right? But that's that second hyperinflationary wave of the dollar. And that was in 2008. Let's call it 2018. call it really 2020, 2021. But that was that. First, we had the 100-year hyperinflation, the slow hyperinflation, and the slow grind away at the dollar. Then we had the global financial crisis where they hyperinflated the financial market system. Now we're experiencing the fast hyperinflation, and we're seeing that all over the place, where the price of tortilla chips have doubled in the last year, where the price of vehicles are shooting through the roof, if you can even find them and if you can even get them, and where the price of anything and everything that's hot is just simply not available. Computer graphics cards at a reasonable price. I'm a techie, and I follow this stuff closely as just personal interest and hobbies. So yes, that is one of the things to consider. Let's see here. Moving on. Um, excuse me. So it looks like I'm about ready to wind down here. I've gone about 10 minutes over. GSM Eagle is really nice. I imagine you're talking about Golden State Mint Eagle as a certain type of round. Yes, definitely. I mean, anything really, right? Like I like the Sunshine Mint rounds too, the ones that have that little decoder thing with it. That one's pretty cool too. But basically it comes down to also what is available in your area at an affordable price, because as Americans, we're spoiled, because we have traditionally had some of the best availability and some of the best, uniqueness at great prices. And then just the plethora of different generic rounds that have been available. So, that's another thing that people can definitely take advantage of. And in my opinion, should be taken advantage of, especially as we're getting clobbered here. Right. So, I feel bad for the people that jumped on at 26 and 28, and maybe now they're like, well, this is terrible, I want to get out and I want to get into the minors or whatever. But just sticking with the course, I think, because it could get worse before it gets better, and I think that it will get worse before it gets better, and we'll see if I'm right about that. And even if I'm not right about that, then I'm pretty close. So I'm going to wrap it up now, unless somebody's got any other questions. I'll just give it another question for I'll just leave it open for another question for a minute here as I just kind of wrap this up. And I just want to say that, don't lose the hope, don't lose the faith. Nothing really has changed. We're sitting here with a heavy smash against silver today, even though everybody and their brother has been saying silver is going to the moon at this point. That's not how it's been working out. Of course, if we step back a little bit, if we step out of the echo chamber, as I like to say, if we take off the blinders and just say, what's really going on here? Let's think about this logically and from a point of view where I'm not trying to pump a penny stock. I'm not trying to say, go buy this, exclusive silver coin or anything. I'm not saying any of that stuff. I'm just saying what is going on with the silver market, and I'm going to start calling things out as I'm seeing them. So it is painful paying these premiums, and that's why I'm a proponent also of generic rounds if you can get them at a lower premium. I remember in 2018 writing articles about the fact that it was cheaper to melt down 90% silver, essentially as doré bars, right? Which are kind of like what the miners produce, the mine, where it's kind of like a rough, crude type of bar. But I remember in 2017, 2018, writing articles about the fact that it was cheaper to melt down 90% silver and sell it as just generic silver bullion and export it to Russia than it was to actually, because nobody wanted it at that point. And I specifically remember buying a lot of 90% silver at zero premium. I even remember buying gold at zero premium in 2017, 2018 as well. These are in like the depths of the capitulation. And this time around, because of the supply chain disruptions, because of the shortages, I don't think that we're going to see those kind of like buy silver at spot, buy gold at spot. Maybe you can get one generic coin or something like that, but I don't see us going back to the good old days, right? The supply chain disruptions are real. The supply chain constraints are real. The physical silver shortages are real. The manipulation in the markets are real. So, at this point, it's how is each person individually reacting to the hyperinflation of the US dollar and the crack up boom. So that's what I've got for everybody today. I've got 17 people still with me. I thank you all. Michael Schweitzer, thank you. Gary T, thank you. Listen, my people, thank you. John Webb, thank you for tuning in here towards last end of the comments. And I'm going to start doing this a little bit more. And guess what? When I bring back the podcast and the interviews, I'm not going lightly on people anymore. I'm going to start calling people out, and I'm going to start calling challenging questions for people. So, if you want to know what's been going on with silver doctors, why I haven't been talking about silver a lot lately, that's because basically, I was just going ahead and, there's so many other experts and pundits and gurus and analysts out there now that I was letting them have their go at it. And now, look at them all wondering why silver's not at $30 and we're sitting here at under 2150. That's what I'm going to do. So, I hope you continue to tune in to both the live streams and to the podcast and interviews. I'm not just going to ask a basic question and give the person the benefit of the doubt. I'm actually going to start challenging people now, and I want people to start challenging me as well. So thank you for tuning in. Until next time, very soon from now, peace out, keep it real, take care of those you love, take care of others, and we'll see you on the flip side. Thanks.